I've only had Hostfully for a little over 2 years. It's continued to evolve and it's gotten better every year. So cannot wear all hats. You should focus on one single thing, and then the rest you should hire out. If you don't have AI incorporated in your business, I am telling you, you're going to be left behind. Whether you use Hostfully or not, find some type of AI software that's going to work for you, but you have to incorporate that. This is probably the most important part about this podcast is what we just talked about. You guys really need to get on top of that. Hostfully gave me the time to grow the business. All right, my beautiful people. I got a very special guest today, and I think you're really going to enjoy what we're talking about. And the focus of this video is going to be the power of a PMS software for your STR business. So today I have Brise Carpenter, and he is the VP of Customer Success. Is that correct, Brise?
Yeah, that's right, Fernando. Thank you.
And that's a cool word for a business developer. That's how I really understand it. But he really is, for me, instrumental in my business, because a lot of the stuff that I've learned through Hostfully, I got from Brise here. So without further ado, do me a favor and tell the people who you are, what you do, and let's get this started.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me first off, and it's been really rewarding to work with you, because you actually take, the feedback that we provide and the suggestions we provide, and you implement it. Like that, taking action is really a big differentiator, for a lot of property managers and those in short-term rental. So kudos first for that. It's super fun to work with you. Yeah. So I head up customer success. It really, all comes down to helping our customers win using the software. Like at the end of the day, that's what we're doing, whether it's an onboarding and helping customers get set up on Hostfully, or throughout their relationship with Hostfully. I have a group of customer success managers who work to coach and provide feedback and share insights, from other short-term rental managers just all over the world. And so it really is a fun job. We get to talk to customers all day, every day. We get to share what we're learning, from other property managers and what we're learning at Hostfully and what we're bringing to the software. So super fun for me. I've been in the short-term rental space since 2011. So it's been quite a ride, 2.5 years at Hostfully now, and it's been really fun to grow our customer base and get to work with customers as we go.
Awesome, and I like the people, those that are subscribers and follow the channel. You guys know, I've always said this, is that I'm a fan of talking to operators. Bryce is an operator. He said he's been in the short-term rental business since 2011. It's not like these quote-unquote gurus who operate short-term rental for 3 months and then they write books and they say, "Hey, I'm an expert." So that is a cool part. One of the reasons why I also brought Bryce on board, because, like I said, not only is he part of Hostfully, but he is an operator, and that's extremely important. So let's begin by telling the viewers, what is Hostfully?
Absolutely. Yeah. So Hostfully, we refer to ourselves as a property management platform. Some people would call that a property management system, but really we refer to ourselves as a platform. And that's really because of our API connectivity and how we've built Hostfully to really be able to take the best and the most industry-leading software out there and integrate it with your property management system and to be able to really tie that all in. And so we have our PMP, property management platform, and then we also have digital guidebooks. So we really have kind of 2 core products, and then integrate, of course, with other providers out there in the industry.
Yeah, and that's important. When I was shopping around for PMS system, prior to going to Hostfully, I had a software development company actually develop a software for me. And what ended up happening with that was it was awesome, had all the bells and whistles that I wanted. It was really customized to us. but the big problem was that it was very difficult to teach. So when I was looking for a software, I needed something that was plug and play, and something that if I had a customer service rep or I had a property manager quit, that it was easy for someone to step in their shoes and not take me months and train them in the system. And Hostfully really fit that bill for me. And as Bryce said, the API connection is, it's really a game changer. So that's really cool. So tell us also about, a little bit about the history of Hostfully. What inspired Hostfully to even evolve from the beginning?
Sure. Yeah. So Hostfully, we actually started as two companies. One was Hostfully, and that was originally the guidebooks, the digital guidebooks. And then the other product was under Orbi Rentals, was the name of the company. Think of like orbiting the globe. And so that was the property management platform originally. And so we have three founders, Steph, Margot, and David. They founded the company separately, Margot and David and Steph. And then they came together in about 2015 and brought the products together and really wanted to make sure that we had a tightly integrated solution. And so originally both groups of founders had kind of created what they needed in the short-term rental space. So Steph was working with a large property manager over in Europe, and they needed a platform just like you built, just like you mentioned, Fernando. So they built that, and it developed into Hostfully today. David and Margot were finding that a lot of guests were asking questions and reaching out to them after hours and like didn't know how to use different components of the home. And so they built these digital guidebooks to help their guests kind of self-serve and to know everything that there was in the home and everything in the local area that they could do. And so it came from kind of that core need that our founders had as operators, as you mentioned, in the industry.
Yeah, awesome. And it shows that they were operators when they built this, because it has a lot. And it, since I've been on, and I've only had Hostfully for a little over 2 years, it's continued to evolve and it's gotten better every year. So kudos to the owners and to your entire team. You guys have done a great job with that. But let's talk about some of the features. Like what are the key features that Hostfully has for that are useful for property managers?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this ties back to your point of, some property management systems try to be everything to everyone. Okay. And so at Hostfully, we've taken a different approach. We really have 7 core areas, kind of 7 core, big features of the system that we focus on growing and developing and being best in the world at. And then for other areas and other focuses, we integrate, and we want the best integration partners we could have. So those 7 core areas are our unified calendar. So that's the ability to take your properties and manage them on one calendar, push them out to a variety of channels, Airbnb, Vrbo, even direct bookings through the Hostfully Direct website, but manage that one calendar. Okay, so that's core to Hostfully. Our lead pipeline is also core. So the concept of guests as leads, as potential guests, right? And to manage those and nurture those leads, and then maybe remarket to them, even if they don't stay with you the first time that they pop onto your website. So lead pipeline is super important. Our multi-purpose inbox and the ability to communicate with guests via the channel messages. So through the Airbnb channel, through the Vrbo channel, through the booking.com channel, as well as email, text messaging, and our newly integrated AI suggestion generator within the inbox, which is super cool. We'll probably talk a little bit more about that. But that kind of all-in-one inbox, the direct booking website I mentioned, that's the 4th component. The 5th, I would say, is our mobile app, because as short-term rental managers, we're always on the go and needing to take care of business. If you're in a home or on property, still need to get into your software and use that. So I'd say that's 5th. And then the 6th is our flexible reporting and analytics tools. And then 7th are our guidebooks, our beautiful digital guidebooks for your guests to learn more about the home and also learn more about the area and your local recommendations as an expert. So those are kind of the 7 core areas of Hostfully, and there's a lot more within each of those, but that's really where we focus our time. And then, like you said, if there are other tools or components you want, maybe you want to integrate dynamic pricing into your strategy for your short-term rentals. You're going to partner with the best-in-class dynamic pricing tool out there. You're going to partner with Beyond Pricing. You're going to partner with Price Labs, Wheelhouse. One of those guys, those are our partners. And that software, those companies are focused on really providing a best-in-class software there. We're not building that in Hostfully. We're not going to try and reinvent the wheel on that. So just kind of that example of like the core focus areas, and that's so that Hostfully can keep innovating. Like you said, Fernando, like we can keep rolling out and adding new features. We're not spread so thin across like every single thing you could ever imagine. And you're also not paying for those other components or other softwares if you don't need them.
Yeah, I mean, you said a lot there, and I want to touch on a couple of things. Number one, I'm going to talk about what you just mentioned. What I love about Hostfully, and I teach this, I believe in this, is the fact that you should focus on some core things about your business. So if you're a short-term rental manager or an operator, right, you cannot wear all hats. You should focus on one single thing, and then the rest you should hire out. In the case of Hostfully, they focus on those core 7 things, and then the rest they integrated. They partner with people. You guys as operators should be doing exactly the same thing. I've said this 1,000 times. Focus on your strength. Like for me, my strength is sales. My weakness in business is operations. So I hired a phenomenal operations person, and I just focused on growing the business. And I'm glad Hostfully did that, and you touched on that. That's phenomenal because you guys really do your core 7 things really, really well. So from a person that has used a custom PMS system, I can tell you that I wasted a lot of time and money building that system. And I'm not using it anymore because it was too complicated to use. So kudos for that. You made it simple. You guys focus on that. You're doing that really, really well. There was another thing you mentioned that I want to touch. I think I wrote the note here. And okay, yeah. So the digital guidebook, which is a separate component, right? But talk a little bit more about that digital guidebook and how that impacts that guest experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is a separate product, but integrated with the property management platform. And I'll give you an example of why that's important. I also mentioned our inbox and the ability in the inbox to utilize AI to generate guest responses. So the important piece there is as many of us have experienced kind of AI and chat GPT and things like that, there's a lot of information out there, but the information that's most important to your guests is pretty specific to your properties, right? To, the house rules, to the instructions on how to use different components of the home. And so integrating that data from your guidebooks into our AI inbox generator was super critical, so that when a guest asks a question about the home, you're not generating an AI response that's kind of generic. You're generating a response that's very specific based on the house manual and what you've put in that digital guidebook. So you've got all the instructions about the home built in there. You might as well use that and serve it back up to the guest when they ask. And so the guidebook is really about efficiency and streamline your response to guests so that experience is great and that they have what they need, as well as they have the insight, knowledge that you have. So we also have local recommendations in the guidebook. So you build out, restaurants, bars, activities, things that you want to suggest to that guest through the digital guidebook. And you can bring those suggestions to light. So it really is all about being front and center with the guests and serving up the information they need about their stay and about the property right there, and saving you time so that you're spending less time, in the middle of the night responding to guests and answering questions. They've got everything right there in front of them in the digital guidebook. And as a little bit of a side note on the digital guidebooks, there's a great opportunity to drive incremental revenue. So if you offer, a cheese board and a bottle of wine, or you offer early check-in or late checkout, some of those ancillary sales opportunities, those can be served up right in your guidebook as well, so that the guests can select those, and that can of course help you drive some additional revenue on the side. So the guidebook is really that kind of multi-purpose guest portal tool when you think about it, and we're really excited that we've been able to bring AI into the picture now and really use that detail and that thoughtfulness that you put into the guidebooks right there in your guest responses in the inbox.
Yeah, we're gonna spend some time here, because this is one of my pet projects now, one of my pet peeves when I'm working with short-term rental operators, and that is taking advantage of, number one, technology that we're talking now, but more importantly, taking advantage of AI. I just did a video on a study that was done by Beyond Pricing on the use of AI. So you touched on, and Bryce just touched on a lot of the stuff that I'm going to reiterate here, but here's what's important with that. Number one, he said that the digital guidebook and the AI is going to save you time. People, to have a phenomenal guest experience, a lot of people forget that guest experience begins at the inquiry, right? The moment someone sends you an inquiry, they're trying to decide whether or not they're going to book your property. If it takes you minutes or hours to respond, you're losing out on opportunities. With this AI, you're going to give that feed, or that potential guest will get that feedback immediately, right? So that's one component. It's going to raise your revenue because it's going to convert more potential guests. Number two, in terms of the time, I went from having 4 virtual assistants to having 2 virtual assistants, in half, because of the ability of using AI. Now, my virtual assistants don't cost me a lot of money, right? But they still cost me money, right? They still cost me money. And AI has the capacity of answering the questions better than a human can. And here's what I mean by that. We are a high volume, high traffic company. When you have, anyone in business and they're working a shift, by the time they're working 3 or 4 hours, they're getting tired. And when you get the same repetitive questions, humans have a tendency to be a little short when they respond. AI doesn't do that. They give the ideal response to that guest. So it's all about providing that exceptional guest experience to the guest. And it's also about being efficient with your time. Can't tell you how important that is, people. AI is if you don't have AI incorporated in your business, I am telling you, you're going to be left behind. Whether you use Hostfully or not, find some type of AI software that's going to work for you, but you have to incorporate that. I'm telling you, you're going to be left behind, just like those operators that didn't opt in to a PMS system. That's why they never grew, right? Those that are growing, those are the companies like Evolve, Vacasa, us. There's a lot of companies out there that manage hundreds of properties. The only reason we can do that is because of a software like Hostfully, right? So you're going to have to buy into it, people, if you're going to stay in the game. Anything else you want to add to that, Bryce?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think that the key differentiator, though, really comes down to AI can serve up a lot of great suggestions, but we all know that our homes are unique, right? The properties, the homes, the condos we manage. So, a lot of people put a lot of time into building out the information in their property management system about the properties, but then they don't ever use that in their messaging or communication, and they're not using it efficiently or well. And so, again, I think, we just added a feature in the guidebooks as well, where you can add just additional blocks of kind of hidden content, right? So there might be information about the home you want to be able to use in your AI responses, but you don't want necessarily to expose it. Like, everyone doesn't need to see it necessarily, if that makes sense. And so really relevant information being loaded into your AI engine is super critical.
Wow, I haven't found that yet. I'm going to talk to my staff. They need to add that to us.
That's new. That's new.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I love about Hostfully. You guys are constantly innovating, constantly getting better. But yeah, people, I want to move on because we don't have a lot of time. But this is probably the most important part about this podcast is what we just talked about. You guys really need to get on top of that. So let's talk about, because you guys do work with a lot of property managers. What kind of feedback have you been receiving from other property managers?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're always getting a lot of feedback, and one of the ways that we tap into that is we actually use a software called User Voice. It's really cool. Our customers can go in and they provide ideas on what would help their business. They provide feedback on new enhancements to the product and what we should do next. And then they can vote on those. And so it's kind of a democratic setup as well, where our customers, go in, they vote on the ideas that they find the most value with. And then our CTO, Steph, is getting in there, and anytime that he's touching an area of the system, right? Like, so we're about to do some work at the end of the year on templates and triggers, email templates and text templates and all that. He goes into our User Voice portal and he grabs ideas out of there. He says, okay, what are the top voted on ideas related to email automation or communication automation from our customers? And that's how we decide what we're going to build next. Every single time that we're touching an area of the software, we look at that. And we also use that just in general to decide if we should add something to our product roadmap. So a couple of years ago, we added our mobile app. That's a little over 2 years old now. Even more recently than that, there are a lot of guests messaging us about or posting ideas around integrating the Verbo's messaging channel, right? So being able to message guests through the Verbo platform. Well, Verbo just got that API done. And guess who the first property management platform they worked with to implement that? It was Hostfully. And so that's because we had been providing that feedback to Verbo for many, many years and saying people want to be able to do this just like they can with Airbnb messages through the platform, through Verbo, same thing. And we were able to get that done working with our partner.
Yeah, awesome. That's true. I mean, that was one of the things that was for a long time, something that we struggle with was that communication with verbal guests. And it's cool that you guys were able to implement that. A quick question on the digital guidebook, because you just mentioned the mobile app on for Hostfully. Now, the digital guidebook, is it also a mobile app, or is it a link? How does the digital guidebook work?
Yeah, so it's shared via a hyperlink, and it's a mobile-friendly web application basically. And the reason that we've kind of gone that way versus an app is that it's just lighter weight. It's easier for the guests to get into it, to engage and interact and to find the information that they need. They don't have to download an app. Like, that's just another step for people. So it really is about the guest experience and being able to serve that up kind of lightweight to your guests.
Yeah, and the reason I asked that question is because I get asked a lot about digital guidebooks, and a lot of people ask me about DAC and other digital guidebooks, and I always tell them that, they're phenomenal guidebooks, but the problem is I tell people steer away anything that requires the guest to do extra step like downloading an actual app. I can tell you, because we've done studies with other hosts that we help them optimize their business. When they have to download something onto the phone, you lose out on a lot of customers. So having a hyperlink is so much easier, so much user friendly. The fact that it's mobile friendly is it's even better. Now, and going back to innovation, when for a long time I wanted Hostfully to have that mobile version. The first version that came out only had 2 or 3 things that we can do. I think it was the calendar and maybe something else. Now you guys have expanded that, so it makes it even more user friendly. But I like that it's a link. You don't really have to download anything, especially with the digital guidebooks. What I'm referring to, you don't have to download. So that's very good. That's why I wanted you to explain that,
sure.
because that does make a big difference. Let's talk about integration. Because you briefly talked about Price Lab and some of the softwares, but what other talk about integration? What can we integrate? What's compatible, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. So, gosh, there are a lot of integrations. We're on the third version of our API connection, and so that's kept evolving. And just we've exposed more endpoints, and in not technical terms, like just more data to the partners that you can integrate with, and just the ability to just bring even more integration partners into Hostfully. So we talked about dynamic pricing tools. Those are definitely one of the options that we have there. We also have integrations with different smart home tools. So Lynx, Remote Lock, Point Central, Aperto, your locks and your smart home devices can all be integrated with Hostfully. Cleaning and operations management platforms like Turno and Breezeway and Properly and Aperto and Easy Care. So many options there. Accounting integrations if you really want to outsource, and again, kind of to your point, use some best-in-class opportunities there for your accounting and your bookkeeping and keeping everything reconciled and straight. Insurance and guest screening. Like I think I could just go on and on. There are a lot of integrations, and almost every month we add a new integration partner. And to our point on AI, not to be too crazy on that, but we're integrating even more partners that want to help you use AI by tapping into the property data in your property management system.
Yeah, awesome. I can tell you that I think in every section, I think I've integrated something from every section. So on there. So that's cool. Yeah. So, people, that's another big consideration when you're looking at a PMS system. Make sure you ask those questions. What's your integration capabilities, because that does make a big difference on that. So let's talk about some challenges and solutions, right? Let's talk about
Sure.
What do you think are the most common challenges the short-term rental managers are facing today, and how does Hostfully address them?
Yeah. Sure. I think we've just danced around this and even hit on it outright a couple of times. It's lack of time. I mean, is the biggest one, and especially as you grow, you kind of have that paradox of you have even less time, but your business needs more, right? As you grow, and so. It really just from the start, from the beginning, and our integrations are a great example. Like, we want you to be able to be as efficient as possible and use tools out there that are going to make you more efficient. And some of those are from within Hostfully and they're core to the system, and others are outside of Hostfully. So being able to save you, just time and energy is a huge one. We've spent a lot of time talking about the inbox and the AI tool there, so I think we've hit on that plenty, but that's a big one too. And I think the other one really that, is a big challenge that's coming up more as we've emerged from maybe the COVID years is generating leads, generating opportunities, being able to distribute your properties on multiple channels, as well as drive direct bookings too. Like, that should be a really important part of your strategy as well. You don't want all your eggs in one basket, right? So that it can be hard, because if you start with Airbnb or Vrbo, you're familiar with that. So you keep, distributing there, but you really have to broaden your horizon a bit and make sure that you're diversifying the risk to your business and have, access to different channels.
Yeah, that I'm gonna touch on that as well, because I think that is the biggest component and biggest reason why I have been successful, right? So I don't know if you're able to, but if you can, after I tell you my success story, if you know of another success story, if you can share, that'd be great. But,
Sure.
But for me, I can tell you that, I came on with Hostfully in 2022. I believe at that time I had probably about 20 something properties under management. But I've been up as high as 100 properties, but I was only able to get there because of the systems that I put in place, and specifically because of Hostfully. Hostfully gave me the time to grow the business. It took me away from working in it, right? Having to do the day-to-day operations, having to adjust calendars. As I mentioned, I told Bryce before we came on, and most of my subscribers know this, I came on before any of this technology existed. And I remember sitting down, and I still to this day remember these days, we would sit down with an actual calendar on the board and write down our cleanings, our maintenance. I mean, like by hand, every reservation we had, when I needed a cleaner. And I remember I was like, there's no way I can grow. Like we were so busy. And I would tell my operations manager, I'm like, I can't take on more properties. And then thankfully, like I said, these PMS systems came about and it freed us up. But right now my capacity is endless. I can take on as many properties as I can, and more so because I also do a lot of co-hosting. So I don't need a staff for that, because I partner up with people that already have a staff, and I just integrate them into our PMS system, which is the beauty about Hostfully. You can have endless amount of Airbnb accounts on your channel manager, right? Yeah. You can have endless accounts of X, Y, and Z, but Bryce mentioned, don't have all your eggs in one basket. Those that have worked with me have heard me preach this before. You have to market, and the way you market is being on as many OTAs as possible. But the only way you can do that is by having a PMS system like Hostfully that's going to allow you to manage that. In addition, I think this is a big one, and it's probably in the future going to be even bigger, and that is the pipeline that Bryce keeps mentioning, that you can retarget these potential guests, even your past guests, so that you can have more control of your business. Because, for example, right now, our direct book, we have about a 42%, 42% of our bookings come from direct bookings, right?
Wow.
And I thought that was low, but speaking to people in the industry, that is super high. So, yeah. And I want that to be at least, 70% of my business to be from direct bookings. Because before Airbnb, 100% of my bookings were us, right? Now, back then, we only had 3 properties. And back then, snowbirds were our biggest customers. And it was very seasonal. Now we're year-round. We have people from all over the world. And, we have a lot more properties. But again, being able to market them directly is huge, people, huge. Now, that leads me to a question for Bryce. Besides the pipeline, is there any thought on creating a CRM within Hostfully?
Yeah, actually, it's interesting that you bring that up, because I was just talking to Steph, our CTO, about that the other day. That really, creating more of Salesforce for short-term rental managers, and just making it easier to manage those guest profiles and the information in them, and merge duplicates, and also append that guest data with other information that may be helpful. So yes, we definitely want to continue to build that out. There is some functionality today that allows you to kind of tap into that. We've got a pretty cool integration with MailChimp that allows you to pull those guest records out, right? And then remarket to them. And so, you're kind of managing that a little bit more in MailChimp today, but we want to keep going with that, Fernando, and just make it better.
Awesome. Yeah, that's for me, that'll be huge, because right now I use MailChimp. I do integrate, and my direct marketing campaigns are through MailChimp, and we retrieve the data from there. And also from, I own a travel agency, so we get the data from the travel agency as well, and we put that in there. So in addition, I asked you, do you have any other story that you can share, or someone that came to Hostfully and blew up? Or
yeah, absolutely. We if you head over to our website, we have a resources section, and there are so many different case studies. They're actually under success stories that you'll see there. But yeah, success stories. But I worked with an awesome property manager. They acquired a business, Chelsea and Tony. They acquired a business in Red Lodge, Montana, and it's called Red Lodge Reservations. And it's a similar story to yours. They started with Hostfully with about 14 properties under management, and they doubled their property count, so they're over 30 now. And that was in 1 year. So they went from 14 to just over 30 in 1 year. And they tripled their direct bookings. So back to your point, like originally when they started with Hostfully, they were at like 3% direct bookings. Now they're up to 14%. So they've got a ways to go to get to you, Fernando, and get to the 40%. But they're doing great. And that was after just a year of using Hostfully. They integrated Breezeway and just some other components and tools, into their property management system. And so time and time again, like that's what's fun about this job, is that we get to work with really innovative folks that come in, they want to grow their business. And I would say that's Hostfully's bread and butter. Like we start a lot with customers in the initial stages, and we grow with them, and we want to help build them, and we want to build them up and keep innovating with them and alongside them. And so I love that. That's my favorite part of the job.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, and I applaud you guys because you guys do a phenomenal job with that. What trends are you currently seeing in the industry, and how is Hostfully positioning itself to meet that adaptation?
Yeah, so I mean, a big one is, and I won't belabor this too much, is just around pain related to some consolidation and economic pressures on the industry. Fewer leads, fewer guests, maybe more price sensitivity, I would sure say, than there was even a couple years ago. And so really, like, that's a pressure on the industry. It's a challenge right now. And, it's hard to tell, hard to look in the crystal ball and know how long that's going to last. But, it's something that we want to keep helping our customers to distribute across multiple channels, to drive direct reservations, to really have marketing independence as much as possible, and really own their own, future when it comes down to that. So that's a big trend that I think is going to continue. Another one, we're going to keep seeing some legislation, around things like privacy, fees, refund policies. Like you're seeing California kind of push out in front on some of this stuff, but it's going to come to other, states and other areas. And, we're a huge partner and proponent of VRMA. You can even sign up for the VRMA Right to Rent program through Hostfully and contribute to to those efforts to really, be involved in the conversation around legislation and any other changes that are coming to your community. So I think that's going to keep going. And then maybe the third I would say is automation. Like you're going to keep seeing, technology doesn't seem to slow down, and you're going to see more opportunities, like you said, to automate in a thoughtful way. But I think also in a way that really keeps the guest experience in mind. Like you can't just plug in, automation that isn't thoughtful about kind of your unique offering to the guest. And back to your point, like what are your core kind of value points with your guests? And so those are the big three. Like if I had, my crystal ball, those are the three I see.
Awesome. And it's funny you mentioned those three, because I just did a video specifically on those three, because that's what I'm seeing that more and more. And I talked about regulation. Regulation is going to be big. I welcome regulation. I don't welcome over regulation, but I do somewhat welcome regulation, because the industry for a long time really has been unregulated, and we've seen some major issues. And I consider myself a professional, and I don't like bad apples in my profession. And we were seeing that regulation somewhat deals with that. Innovation, like you just mentioned, is going to be critical. But here's going back to the study that I just did the video on. Here's what they're seeing. And it kind of touches on what you just said. And it's the today's traveler has access to data that majority of us didn't have several years ago. So I use myself as an example. I travel all over the world because I do a lot of consulting for short-term rental operators. So I use, short-term rentals as where I'm going to stay. I book, I buy plane tickets, and I own a travel agency. So I'm always looking at data before I move, before I go anywhere. And here's a big trend, and it touches on what you just said. Today's line between a short-term rental, a resort, and a hotel has been extremely blurred, right? In the past, Airbnb and hotels really weren't in competition. Today, they're in competition. This is why Marriott is now in the short-term rental industry, right? Booking.com has been in the short-term rental industry. Expedia bought out Verbal because they want to be in that short-term rental industry. So when you do a search on Expedia, for example, for a stay in Colombia or Cartagena, you're going to find that they're going to show you both hotels and short-term rentals in the same listing, right? So the new traveler has that access, and has the ability to compare pricing, and you touched on pricing, and pricing is a big indicator. In fact, this study, or the stats that this study gave us, was that over 60-something% of travelers book based on price. That's huge.
Yeah. Wow.
So you can't overprice something. You have to stay competitive. You need a pricing software to tell you what your property is priced right with. So all that stuff is going to be huge in the future. More reason why I say you need a software like Hostfully, because you're not going to be able to do that the old-fashioned way. It's going to be too time-consuming. There's going to be too much data out there. And understand that your customer, which is your guest, they're using the same data. They're going in, they're using Google Travel. Google Travel shows them, for example, on a flight, they'll show them all the available flight and what it costs, Yeah. Same thing with hotels and short-term rentals. So you're going, again, as I mentioned, when we talked about technology, if you're not taking advantage of it, you're going to fall behind, and eventually you're going to be out of business. Okay, I got a couple of more questions because we only got a couple of minutes left. What's the most interesting or unexpected feature of Hostfully that a lot of people are not aware of?
Oh man, interesting or unexpected. I think this is kind of funny, but one of the biggest features that customers, they don't realize it's there, but once they find it, it saves them so much time, like hours upon hours a week. And that's the ability to customize your owner statements and generate them from within Hostfully.
I was gonna mention that. Well, so let me see if you're gonna bring it up, because I believe that the same. Go ahead, talk about that.
Yeah, I just think customers don't realize it's there. And then, a lot of times, though, through the sales demo, our team does a great job, and they'll share that. But sometimes they forget about it, and then I get on a call with them, and I'm like, hey, we've never really gone into reporting. Like, tell me what you're doing at the end of the month or beginning of the month, to generate those statements. And they're like, well, I have this Excel spreadsheet, and I just manually enter the reservations into it every month. And I'm just like, wait a minute. Okay, let's look at this together. And within, about, a 1 to 2 hour session, maybe just a couple of those sessions, we customize that owner statement, build out the way that they need that and the way that they need to show that to their owners. And we tee it up. They can push it right into the owner portal, or they can send it via email to their owners. And it just saves them hours and hours and hours each week and each month that they were doing that.
Yeah, I'm going to expand on that too, because that's big. And that's one of the things that when I wrote the question, I was like, let's see because that was a surprise to me. So let's see if others feel the same. And you just confirmed that. That's a big component. And I can say that the owner's report, or the reporting analytics within Hostfully has gotten better. You guys, upgraded that recently. It's gotten much better. You can do a lot more with it. And going back to data, people, you need data, and you need to keep track of your KPIs to see, is your business doing well? Which property's performing? Which one's not performing? So you can give that attention to the ones that are underperforming. And in terms of the owner statements, if you're managing property for other people, it's even more important, because within the owner statement, most of you guys are probably doing it manually, or you're hiring a bookkeeper to do it. You can eliminate that with Hostfully, because Hostfully will do all the bookkeeping for you. You can upload receipts into your reports, and you can send that to your owners, which is going to save you a ton of time. I'm going to go back when I did this before I had a PMS system. I would spend, so in my management contract, it gives us up to the 15th of the month to get all the reports done. I literally needed 2 weeks to get everything done. Now I do it and with all my properties, I can do it in less than a couple of hours. I could confirm that everything's right. All the receipts are there. It's just a matter of confirming, looking at the numbers, and then making the payments. Now, the last question I'm going to ask, because it's going to be another request from me, is putting on your future, genie hat, and if you can implement any feature to Hostfully, what would that be?
Yeah, I thought about this one a little bit, and it's tough because what's the potential? And I think where I'd go with it is with Hostfully, you have an out-of-the-box direct booking website. So you have a direct booking site. You can have guests go to and make reservations directly through you, and save money on commissions and all that stuff. But it's not easy to optimize that for SEO, for your ranking on Google and for your ranking on other search engines. And so I think that would be super cool. Like if I had a magic wand and there was a way to make that direct booking site SEO optimized and just appearing in search as much as possible, and as high up the page as possible, that would be super cool.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't think about that one, because I have my own direct booking website, so I don't use the Hostfully website.
Sure.
So that didn't cross my mind, but that is huge. That is big. That's why I have a direct booking site, because of the SEO capability. And if you guys did that, I wouldn't need my website. So yeah, that's a good one. But here's my request, because this is one of the features that I wish we can implement within Hostfully. Now it might require, because I can do it now with my integration, but is when a owner's report is approved, like it's done and we approved it, that payout gets sent through Hostfully to the actual owner. That would be phenomenal, because it'll save me from actually doing the payouts on a different platform, because that's right now what we have to do. We integrate with our accounting counters, and then my accounting people send out the payouts. But I would like to do that right on the platform. But I know that's a big ask, because it will require for you guys to have, besides the connection with Stripe or some kind of merchant services, something with banking, because you're going to have to, my bank information would have to be tied into that.
Now, Fernando, I just have to say, if you haven't checked out Clearing, our integration partner, they're a newer one.
They're a new one. I was looking at it.
They've got a pretty slick system, and they're integrated natively with a bank, and they can also connect with your existing bank and push ACH payments and stuff like that. So I like your idea, but back to my first point, I don't know if we'll go that far down the financial route of things. But
no, and I am currently in talks with Cleary. They seem phenomenal. I'm trying to figure out with my bookkeeper on how that implementation is going to take place, but 100% so far it looks very promising. I'm pretty sure probably by October 1st we're going to be switching to that, because they do allow you, once they have the information, we can pay out through there, which will save me, because right now my bank charges me I forget what it is, $1 or $2 per ACH transaction.
Right.
So by going through clearing, I won't have that transaction fee, so it's going to save me there.
Right.
But you know, I got to look, because I might also be able to eliminate one of my bookkeepers. So we'll see. But okay. It's good. We're going to close with this. What is, well, I'll let you decide. How do you want to close? Like how do you want to end and tell, you know, whatever nugget of knowledge you want to give our subscribers?
Yeah, well, we've talked a lot about technology and software, and even tried to kind of look in the crystal ball a little bit. But you had a question. You had shared some samples with me and things that we might talk about. And I really like this. You had asked about advice for new short-term rental managers. Okay, just starting out, what advice? And my advice is to find community. And it's what you've created here, you know, with your subscribers. And it's also, you know, something that we have that's awesome at Hostfully. We have our user forum and our user group through Facebook. It's a lot of people engaged in talking there. But that's just like, it's not technology you can buy. It's not something necessarily that'll cost you money. But, you know, tapping into people that have gone before you and made some of these mistakes for you, and engaging with a community, find that community. And I think that'll be a huge benefit to anyone new to the business.
Let me applaud you, because this is why I have this channel. This is why I have my Instagram. This is why I do what I do, because I'm a firm believer that community is what is going to make or break you, right? You need to have that. I know there's a lot of people that are afraid to put their face out there, especially on social media, because social media people are not very nice. But you have to have thick skin here, people. You have to let the world know what you're about, what you have to offer. Again, we talked about direct booking. You can do that through marketing, and you can do it without having your face there. But I believe those people that do that lose out, because in reality, we're in the relationship business, right? And people do business with people they know and trust. And if you're that type of person that's an introvert, that doesn't like to be put out there, you need to find somebody within your company to be the face, because that's really the only way to grow without spending thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in marketing. I get, you know, I mentioned our direct bookings are about 43% of our bookings come through our direct bookings, but they're generated through my social media. So I put out a lot of content, and I get a lot of people inquiring about our properties, about our services, etc. But it's all because I've been willing to put myself out there. Listen, I'm not the prettiest guy. My voice is a little annoying, but I still put myself out there, because I think it's important, because we need to create community, and that's how we're going to grow. But awesome. Bryce, it's been a huge pleasure. Thank you. I can't express my gratitude towards you enough. How can my subscribers and my followers get a hold of you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Just head on over to hostfully.com, and there's right on the top, there's a resources section. You can read some case studies, just look at the partners that we've worked with and the property managers we've helped. And we have webinars every single week of the year, different webinars you can attend and learn more about Hostfully, and just get kind of a demo that way. And of course, you can contact our sales team there too. But we'd love to add some value to your life and share some resources and ways that we've helped customers, and just some community learning there as well. So check out our website. There's a lot there. And thank you, for inviting me to do this, and for also being a super fun customer to work with. I don't get to hop on and do podcasts with many of my customers. So this is really fun.
Oh, cool. And we didn't, because of time, we didn't get a chance to talk about the amount of support and training that Hostfully gives you, because I think that's also extremely important. But just take my word for it, even though we didn't get a chance to talk about it, you're going to get all the support you need. Their library of videos and tutorials is large. You're not going to go wrong. But anyways, if you guys got any value of this, do me a big favor. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Follow me on Instagram. Buy me a coffee if you want to have a conversation with me. Love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.